You know that moment when someone's phone lights up on the table and it doesn't make a sound? No buzz, no chime, no little digital gasp for attention. Just a quiet screen lighting up like it's whispering instead of shouting. And maybe that someone is you. You notice it most when you're with others. Someone else's phone vibrates and interrupts the room. Heads turn, conversations fracture. But yours? Nothing. It stays still, silent, almost polite. People might tease you for it. Don't you ever miss calls? What if something important happens? How do you even live like that? You shrug, or joke, or say, I just don't like the noise. But let's be honest, this isn't really about noise, is it? Because keeping your phone on silent isn't just a setting. It's a relationship. To attention. To control. To other people's access to you. To the world knocking on your door whenever it feels like it. And when you look closely, you start to realize people who keep their phones on silent are not all doing it for the same reason. Some are protecting something. Some are avoiding something. Some are quietly rebelling. Some don't even fully know why they do it. They just know that sound feels wrong. So let's slow down and look at the psychology hiding behind that tiny mute icon. Because by the end of this, you might understand yourself or someone close to you a little more clearly than before, maybe uncomfortably clearly. Let's start with a familiar scene. You're sitting with someone at a cafe. Conversation flows easily. There are pauses, but they're comfortable. Then their phone lights up. You see the name on the screen. A message arrives. They glance at it. They don't react. They don't apologize. They don't reach for it. The phone stays face down, silent, ignored. And you feel something strange. Not offended, not impressed, just curious. Because in a world where attention is currency, that small act says a lot. This brings us to the first psychological profile. Some people keep their phone on silent because they're deeply protective of their attention. Not in a dramatic way, not with speeches about digital detox or mindfulness. Just quietly, practically, almost instinctively. For these people, attention feels finite, fragile, like something that leaks if you don't guard it. They've noticed how one vibration can derail a thought, how one notification can pull them out of a moment they were actually enjoying, how easy it is to lose an entire afternoon to other people's priorities. So they make a choice, often without announcing it. No sounds, no interruptions. If something needs their attention, they'll give it on their own terms. Psychologically, this is tied to a strong internal locus of control. These people feel most regulated when they decide what enters their mental space. It's not that they don't care about others. It's that they care about the quality of their focus. You'll often find this type among writers, designers, programmers, deep thinkers, but also among people who simply value presence. The kind of people who hate half conversations, who dislike being sort of available. If this is you, you might recognize the subtle irritation when someone else's phone keeps going off. Not because it's rude, but because it breaks the atmosphere. You crave continuity, flow, depth, and silence helps you stay there. But then there's another type, and this one is a little more complicated. Picture someone who keeps their phone on silent, but checks it often. Almost too often. No sounds, but plenty of glances. No interruptions, but constant monitoring. This person might say they hate notifications. But the truth is, they're not avoiding information. They're avoiding demand. Because a ringing phone doesn't just deliver a message. It delivers an expectation. Respond now. React now. Be available now. For some people, that expectation feels heavy, pressurizing, almost intrusive. Keeping the phone on silent becomes a way to soften the demand, to turn loud requests into quiet suggestions. Psychologically, this often shows up in people who are highly conscientious, emotionally attuned, or conflict avoidant, people who feel other people's needs very strongly. When their phone rings, it's not neutral. It's a wait. A message isn't just text, it's a task. A call isn't just a call, it's a commitment. So silence becomes a buffer, a little breathing room between stimulus and response. If this resonates, you might notice something else. You're very thoughtful in your replies. You don't fire back quick messages. You take time. You craft responses. And maybe, just maybe, you sometimes feel guilty for not answering right away, even though no one actually said you had to. Silence gives you space to choose. But it also reveals how much responsibility you feel toward others. Then there's a third profile, one that often goes unnoticed, even by the person themselves. Some people keep their phone on silent because they are sensitive, not weak, not fragile. Sensitive in the neurological sense. They notice everything. Sounds hit them harder. Interruptions linger longer. Sudden noises jolt their nervous system out of balance. For them, a phone vibration isn't a small thing. It's a spike of stimulation that echoes long after the sound stops. These people often describe feeling on edge when their phone is loud, or oddly relieved when it's silent. Psychologically, this aligns with high sensory processing sensitivity. Their brains are excellent at detecting nuance, but that also means they get overwhelmed more easily. Silence isn't a preference. It's regulation. If this is you, you might also dislike loud alarms, abrupt doorbells, or unexpected knocks. You might flinch at notification sounds even when you're expecting them. Your phone on silent is less about communication and more about nervous system care. And the world doesn't always understand that. People might say you're too quiet, too sensitive, or too easily distracted. But what they don't see is how much effort it takes for you to stay balanced in a noisy, demanding environment. Silence helps you stay whole. Now let's talk about a type that's quietly rebellious. Even if they'd never describe themselves that way, some people keep their phone on silent as a form of resistance. They're tired of being reachable, tired of being summoned, tired of living at the mercy of buzzing rectangles. This isn't about self-care. It's about autonomy. These people remember, consciously or unconsciously, a time when you couldn't reach someone instantly, when waiting was normal, when urgency was rare. Keeping the phone on silent becomes a way to say, I exist outside the algorithm. Psychologically, this is often linked to people who value independence, who dislike surveillance, or who feel uneasy with constant connectivity. They don't want to be on call for life. They might still respond, they might still care, but they refuse to let technology dictate their rhythms. If this is you, you might feel a quiet satisfaction when you miss a call. Not relief exactly, but reassurance. Proof that the world didn't collapse. That urgency is often exaggerated. That most things can wait. Silence becomes a reminder you're allowed to be unreachable. And then there's a type we don't talk about enough. Some people keep their phone on silent because they are emotionally guarded. Not cold, not distant, just selective. For them, a ringing phone triggers something deeper than annoyance. It triggers vulnerability. Who needs me now? What do they want? What version of myself do I have to be? Silence gives them a moment to brace, to prepare, to choose whether they have the emotional bandwidth to engage. Psychologically, this can be connected to people who've been overextended in the past, who were always the one others leaned on, who learned, slowly, that availability can turn into exhaustion. So they create a boundary, a small one, but a powerful one. No sound. no instant access, no emotional ambush. If this resonates, you might notice you feel more grounded when your phone is quiet, less reactive, less exposed. Silence gives you emotional sovereignty. But here's where things get interesting. Keeping your phone on silent doesn't just shape how others reach you. It shapes how you experience time. Without constant auditory interruptions, moments stretch, thoughts deepen, boredom reappears, and with it, reflection. You might find yourself daydreaming more, thinking more, feeling more. Silence creates space, and space can be uncomfortable, which is why not everyone chooses it. Some people need the noise, the alerts, the reassurance that they're connected. Silence confronts you with yourself. And depending on who you are, that can feel peaceful or unsettling. There's also a social layer here that's worth noticing. When you keep your phone on silent, you subtly change social dynamics. You're harder to interrupt, harder to rush, harder to pull away mid-conversation. Some people admire that. Some feel unsettled by it. Because in a culture of constant responsiveness, silence reads as intention. And intention can be misinterpreted. People might assume you're ignoring them, or distancing yourself, or being passive-aggressive, when in reality, you're just curating your attention. This mismatch between intention and interpretation is where a lot of quiet tension lives. You might notice people apologizing for calling you, or saying, "I know you probably won't see this," or feeling surprised when you respond thoughtfully instead of instantly. Your silence changes expectations. And over time, it teaches others how to approach you. But there's also a mirror effect. People who keep their phone on silent often notice how reactive others are, how quickly they jump, how anxious they become when unreachable. And sometimes that contrast feels isolating. You might feel out of sync with the pace of modern life, too slow, too deliberate, or just right. Here's the twist most people miss. Keeping your phone on silent is not about disengagement. It's about choosing when to engage. It's a quiet skill, one that requires self-trust. Trust that you won't miss something irreparable. Trust that you can respond later. Trust that your presence, when you give it, will be enough. And that's not easy in a world that equates immediacy with care. So, if you're someone who keeps your phone on silent, ask yourself, what am I protecting? What am I avoiding? What does silence give me that noise takes away? And if you're someone who feels uneasy around silent phones, ask yourself something else. What does constant reachability give me? And what does it cost? Because beneath that tiny setting is a much bigger question about how we relate to each other and to ourselves. So, which type felt closest to you? The attention guardian? The pressure buffer? The sensitive nervous system? The quiet rebel? The emotionally selective? Or maybe you're a blend. Most people are. If this landed somewhere personal, sit with it for a moment. Notice how your phone feels in your hand. Notice whether it's making noise right now. And if you want to keep exploring the quiet psychology behind everyday habits, the ones we rarely question but deeply live, you already know where to find more. Just maybe not instantly.